He is Marc Davis, not to be confused with the Raiders owner. I'm sure that oftentimes he gets confused. Other Marc Davises that are well known as well, that Cy Young Award winner too. So that is not him, but this Marc is a big deal as well. He is director of content creation at SNY. We're going to talk about his career and his journey on the Onto Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley, a national anchor at Fox Sports Radio. Marc, I appreciate you doing this. You're also a girl dad, and yes. I'm wondering how your daughters inspire you in this world of sports media and how they make you better at your job.
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Bryan. I appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time. So, listen, being a girl dad above anything else is the most important thing in my life. My kids, in fact, we got to wrap this up soon. I got to take my one daughter to volleyball, so that's always fun. But watching them play sports, participate in sports, being active in sports reminds me of why I do this and keeps me grounded, right? When you see, these ridiculous contracts being given out or the lockout that's about to happen in professional baseball, my love of sports, it doesn't get affected by it because I see my kids and the love and the passion that they have for it and just the pure joy that they have just going out there, messing around with their friends and having fun. And so it reminds me of why I work in sports. Sometimes a lot of us, we always say when working those late nights or those West Coast games, we always say to each other, well, we could be digging ditches. There are worse things we can do besides going to work and getting paid for talking sports, right? And so that's my job. And I need to remember every day I get paid to talk about sports. And, for the most part, it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah, no, that's so well said. And of course, Marc, you used to work with NBA television, but I want to go back to your days in college. Obviously, you're proud West Virginia alum, and you were part of the broadcast news club. If I met you and I was in that club with you, what am I going to learn about you?
Well, so that was a very long time ago, and less gray hair and more hair on the head. But those were times where that broadcast news club was something we started as a group at that journalism school. We didn't have a very big communications department, didn't have a very good, I shouldn't say very good, but very big broadcast news department. So that broadcast news club was small, but I was part of it because of my association with the radio station. I was the first freshman that U92, the college radio station, had ever hired to work in their sports department. So that was really my first foray into that, and I got involved in the broadcast news club as I started figuring out what my major was going to be. Sort of in my second year, and it was really a figuring out period for me of what sports journalism was like and what sports journalism was then and what it would ultimately turn into now. So it was really very exploratory for me and trying to figure out what the difference is between what I was doing with the radio station and what TV journalism was like and how it was different from news.
Once you figured out what you wanted to do and you knew you were in it for the long haul, there's so many that are aspirational in terms of wanting to get in the business, but I don't think everybody knows the work that it takes to get in, especially when you break in and the discipline and sacrifice it takes. Why did you have that commitment? How did you have that commitment to realize that, look, as much as you love this, you understand even at an early age that it's going to take a lot of grunt work to make it in this biz?
Yeah, so it's a funny story, Bryan. And when I was in college and, I was working for the radio station, I love sports. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I said, I was involved with the broadcast news club, and I wanted to have a tie to sports somehow. I didn't really know what I wanted to do or what aspect, right? And one basketball game, I'll never forget this, because had it not happened, I don't know where I'd be today. But one basketball game, I don't know if you know Rod Thorne, the very famous executive, West Virginia grad, famously drafted Michael Jordan when he was part of the Bulls. He was at a West Virginia game, and I didn't know him at the time. I knew, of him, of his lore at West Virginia. I never met him. And my father knew who he was. My father was a big basketball fan. My father knew who he was. So we saw him walking down the corridor. We were at the Coliseum for a basketball game. And my father says, you should go talk to him. That's Rod Thorne. He works for the NBA now. You should go introduce yourself. And so I just introduced myself. Hi, Rob. My name is Marc Davis. I'm from New Jersey. Big fan of yours. Michael, blah, 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 the whole thing. And he gave me his card. And it was my junior year. And he handed me his card, which I still have. He handed me his card. And he said, if you ever need anything, give me a call. So that summer of my junior year, we took all my resumes and I was walking around New York City, going to different places, a fan everywhere, handing my resume. Long shot. I called Rod Thorne and said, hey, Rod, Marc Davis, we met, last year at the, West Virginia basketball game when you were back in town. I'm looking for an internship, something to do. And, he called me back a week later and got me an internship with the NBA. And so that summer, the summer of 1998, which was a work stoppage for the NBA, where they wound up letting go of a lot of their staff, but they kept on their interns. And so there was a lot of work for us to do. And so I don't know if it's ironic or what you want to call it, but the Bulls documentary that they just released, that they just put out, I was working on that in 98, logging those tapes, logging that footage. So when all that stuff was, I'm like, oh my God, I remember all of these things. I remember all of these interviews. That was my first foray into this business. And it would have never happened had my father not pushed me towards introducing myself to Rod Thorne. And that moment really set it off from there. I got the internship. And then that next year, they were starting NBA TV. So the day I graduated college, May 99, the day I graduated, I drove home, went home, slept, one night. The very next night, drove to Secaucus, New Jersey, and started at the NBA. And I've been there ever since. And I was working ever since.
That's such a fascinating story. And Mark, I had somebody else on recently, Bill Wagner with DirecTV Sports, and he was talking about how in a similar instance, he was trying to figure out how to get that in. And he was at the airport with his dad. And his dad was trying to convince Bill that, look, Bill, you went to Arizona. You're an alum there. Steve Cohen, formerly of WFAN, went to Arizona. Try to give him a call. I just call him, even though you don't know him, and just use the Arizona connection. And Bill said, I don't think he would ever give me the time of day. He ends up calling him. Steve answers, and the career is taking off from there because of the dad's urging, which is really similar to you.
Yeah.
How did your career go from being the intern, as you said, then to gaining confidence from your peers and your superiors at NBA TV to then give you more and then to be able to continue to thrive while you were there?
So, one thing I learned very, very early on in my career was dominate the job you have to earn the job you want. And I learned that very early. NBA TV, we that was the first league-run sports network. NFL Network wasn't around. MLB Network wasn't there. NBA TV was the first. And it was a great, you probably see yeah. There were 6 of us who really ran that network, 6 of us doing all that programming. And that was so early on. We didn't have commercials. The commercial breaks for NBA TV was if we were done doing something, there was a little spy camera in the control room. It's like, all right, we're going to go to break. And you'd see a shot of the control room for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And we come back from break and we go to programming. There was no sponsors. There was no advertising. There was nothing like what you see today. And so it was next to, if you weren't live, you were live with a shot of that control room. So it was pretty crazy. But I learned to do a lot at an early age and got an experience that not a lot of people were able to get because there were so few of us. There wasn't very many of us working there. And so I got to do things as a PA that you wouldn't necessarily get to do as a producer. I got to produce their overnight fantasy basketball show called, I forget what it was. I can't remember what it was. It was so long ago, but the show was on live 1:30 to 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I'm sitting there, I'm answering phones, I'm building graphics, and I'm producing the show. But that's where you get your start, right? And that's how you learn things. So as a production assistant, I'm producing that show. An overnight basketball fan, is it a big ratings grabber? No, but it's how I learned. And I started learning more and more things because there weren't very many people. You weren't just one of a million. You were one of a handful. And because of that, it was a small group of people, and I was able to learn so many different things. That's why being part of a startup was so great. That's why what appealed me and drew me into SNY as that being a startup as well. So I went from one startup at NBA TV to another at SNY, which again, it wasn't as small as NBA TV, but small enough to where you go there wearing one hat, and you walk out and you're wearing 5 different, right? So every day brings with it a different challenge, and I love that. I enjoyed that, and again, like meeting Rod Thorne, had I not started with NBA TV and went to somewhere like ESPN or some big place like that, it's harder to sort of stand out in the crowd when the crowd can fill up a stadium, as opposed to being 1 out of 5 people in that same stadium. It was quite the experience, and one I'll value.
Marc Davis is with us. I'm Bryan Fenley. You gained all that priceless experience from your time with NBA television, and then you parlayed that to, as you mentioned, to SNY, and you joined SNY at the same time as one of our mutual friends in Will O'Toole. Had him on for a conversation here recently. It's probably no surprise to you to see the success he has been having. From your perspective, when you first met him, what tipped you off that he was a big time name? He would be very inspirational in this field.
Yeah, so Will came to SNY from ABC Sports with Kurt Gowdy Jr., right? And at that time, ABC Sports still, the wide world of sports still carried that ambiance with it. Still carried that allure, that name recognition with it. Kurt Gowdy Jr., son of the famous father, Kurt built a name for himself, and so Will came with Kurt, and so immediately you knew Kurt's not going to bring somebody with him that wasn't already really good at what he did. And so Will was responsible for our Jets unit. He was the Jets unit. We still are TV home of the Mets, Jets, and UConn women's basketball. And we do everything with the Jets other than, broadcasting the games. We don't have those rights, but pre and post game. So Will shaped all of our Jets coverage, all of, he was the last producer we had to produce a playoff show because the last time the Jets were in the playoffs. So it was that long ago. So I knew immediately Will was somebody I wanted to sort of pick his brain, understand, from a national level, what it took to be good in this business, what it really took to thrive. He was somebody right off the bat who knew what he was doing. He was running a unit by himself. He had an AP here or there, and how to manage talent, those types of things. But you could see it right away. He knew what he was doing from the second he walked in the door.
So clearly, since Will left, the Jets have struggled mightily. I guess it's Will's fault for what's happened. When did your first Emmy come into play?
I got my first Emmy in 2010. It was for a LeBron James. It was that summer that LeBron James was leaving Cleveland. He said, he was, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. So we produced a show, Free Agent Frenzy, that day because, we were hoping that he would come to New York and he would play for the Knicks. So we did a whole free agent show. It's called Free Agent Frenzy, NBA Free Agent Frenzy. And so the show was so captivating and so appealing to the New York fan base because everybody thought we had a shot at LeBron James. And I always say this, a lot of times our Jets post-game show did better when the Jets were losing or lost in a bad way because our talent, our fan base, the New York fan base would go nuts. And anybody who knows New York knows how passionate the New York fan base was. And so at that time when they lost out on LeBron James, the fans were just irate. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe he chose Miami over New York. And how did that, get messed up? What did Donnie Walsh do to screw up that free agency? And so that show was really good. We submitted it for an Emmy and it wound up winning. And so that was the first of a few Emmys I've been a part of at SNY, but it was a great team effort and a group effort on that. And one I'll never forget.
If I'm not mistaken, another Emmy came in 2019 in relation to the Mets pre-post game show. What did the award decision maker see in that, and why you take a lot of pride in what you all were able to do that year?
Yeah, so we've won a number of Emmys for our Mets pre and post game coverage, and that unit led by Gerard Guilfoyle has been an outstanding unit for so many years. We do so many things on that Mets pre and post game show that it has got a national pre and post game show. I always say you can take what we do and put it anywhere, up against the big boys at Fox or against the big boys at ESPN. And I dare you to tell us ours isn't better. That's how good we are. And, our talent come, in and out. We could have Lee Mazzilli or Bob Ojeda or Nelson Figueroa or Anthony Recker or Todd Zeal. And our talented team of producers and associate producers get the best out of them from, the different breakdowns that tell you why Jacob deGrom is so good, or what makes Seth Lugo so dominant in the bullpen, why he should stay in the bullpen. And so that season was not a good season in 2019. It was pretty much a bad season. It was, even in bad seasons, similar to what I was saying with the Jets, even in bad seasons, the team knows what to do to keep the audience motivated and keep the audience wanting to come back. And that it's a testament to their hard work and what they do on a show in, show out basis. I dare you to find too many people with a team that's got close to 100 losses, how to keep the fan base engaged in what you're doing. And so we were able to do that, and Gerard and his team put forth a great effort, and we were rewarded. I think it goes to show you that it's not just about the results on the field, although that helps, but it's about the hard work that you put into the broadcast that you're doing, and we were rewarded for that. And that was a great feeling.
Marc Davis is our guest. I'm Bryan Fenley. So the hard work obviously played a big part in the increased TV viewership, and people love the content. They love the talent, and people kept coming back. Why do you keep coming back to this business and all of your years and growing? What is it about it that just keeps bringing you back?
Well, Bryan, I'll sort of refer you back to what I said earlier when we were speaking. I could be digging ditches for a living, right? I could be sitting there, adding numbers or, doing things I am just not good at and things that make it feel like it's work, right? This is my talking sports, talking about Max Scherzer signing a contract with the Mets. That's my job. With my friends, I have a group text of friends that I grew up with. And everybody's excited about Max Scherzer, and they're typing that while they're doing their job. But that is my job, talking about Max Scherzer, right? That's what I get to do on a daily basis. I have to go to work on Sundays, but I'm going to work to watch football, right? I'm not going to work to come up with some crazy tax equation or something like that. So it's when it doesn't feel like work, you're really lucky. And when you get paid for it, you're even that much more lucky. And so that's what keeps me going. When you have a bad day at work, keeps everything in perspective, knowing that it's sports. I grew up loving sports, and I get to do what I grew up loving. I'm not a multi-million-dollar athlete. I don't make the $130 million over 3 years like Max Scherzer is going to make from it. But I get to talk sports. There are much, much worse things I could be doing with my life, and I get to do something I love, and I get to do something I enjoy, and it's been a dream come true.
One more question for you, Marc Davis. I'm
Sure.
Bryan Fenley. Something else that you love, and I saw that doesn't seem like work, is that summer project where you made the Lego Simpsons house with your daughter. But I wanted to ask you, what is your greatest talent?
Good question. My greatest talent, I think my greatest talent is probably my personality. And I think I can make the best of bad situations. And I think I can, when things are going sort of south, I have a way of making them turn and go the right direction, right? You always say in the TV business, breaking news is the toughest thing to handle because you have no idea where it's going to go. And in those situations are where I'm at my best and where I thrive. And so it's because of the even keel personality I have, the the ability I have to take a situation that others might fold in and learn how to put my spin on it and keep everybody calm and moving forward. I don't know if you heard my daughter there in the background. It's your laugh, Daddy. It's your laugh, and I have a pretty good laugh. I think some people might say that one of my greatest talents is not angering my wife, which is something I am very proud of because nobody wants to see that.
So no matter the chaos that comes with live television, handling breaking news, you are like, as you probably saw, sorting through that footage when you first got to NBA television, you were Michael Jordan at the free throw line. You were poised, you are composed, and you deliver under pressure, which is no reason why, or the reason why that is, to the success that you've had over the course of your career. Marc Davis, Director of Content Creation, SNY. I'm Bryan Fenley. Marc, really appreciate your time, and this was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, Bryan. I appreciate you having me. I enjoyed it, and thanks for having me.